Hi, I'm Will Beeson. I build and advocate for robust, reliable AI. I just left academia and I'm going to rant about it at the YouTube algorithm for a bit. I worked in software for 8 years, a variety of machine learning and cloud infrastructure projects. I saw that there was a lot of work on how the software industry, could do better. Things around requirements development, how to better integrate how to better and just more reliably and more ethically integrate AI models into software products. And I wanted to go and see that for myself. I wanted to go learn that from academia, come back and either be part of the solution or help other people just build better software. So I got accepted into a PhD program. I left my job and I went to go pursue a degree in information studies. 3 years into my PhD, I realized I've got to call it quits. Part of the process for the program that I was in is writing a qualification paper. This is like a it's like a literature review where you review several dozen papers, but then you're also expected to produce a synthesis to show that you've got something interesting to say that you can meaningfully contribute to the academic literature. Also, part of it's kind of proving that you've got your own voice and that you're writing stuff that is actually reasonably publishable. It went pretty badly, in just kind of the most frustrating way that it could have for me. I worked on a paper for a year. I wrote several drafts of it that all didn't do well. It wasn't that my paper had logical errors, and it wasn't that I was misunderstanding the literature or that I didn't have like my own voice. The feedback that I got was that what I was writing didn't fit into any academic community. So even though I was writing something possibly interesting, possibly novel, uh, it wasn't going to find a place in academia. As one reviewer put it, in academia, it doesn't matter if you're right. What matters is who reads you, and people will only read you if either you're so important that they feel like they have to read you, or you're saying something they already want to hear. And that just killed it for me. Um, I got into academia thinking that, like, academia of all places would put knowledge first, that I could prove that if I was right about something important, that would be enough. And in some ways, it doesn't matter if what that reviewer said is true or not. What matters is it's a it's a viewpoint that exists and is to some extent tolerated in academia, and or at least in the program that I was in. I can't make people care. I can try and point towards things, and I can do my best to try and educate them or show that they're doing something wrong. But if people fundamentally don't care, it takes so much energy to make someone care about something that they've already decided they don't care about, especially if they don't have an incentive to care about it. So, um, I left. So, this paper I worked on, past year of my life, it was about how in AI research and in the AI industry, we create human labeled data sets to train models. Models don't just come out of nowhere. You need a bunch of data that is, to some extent, labeled to help the machine figure out what you want it to do. Some amount of human annotation is just unavoidable. Specifically, I was critiquing how the literature goes about creating and using these data sets. As an example, say you're going to go to Reddit and you're doing some kind of research that is into the toxicity of comments on Reddit, and then you go and look at 1,000 comments. As a researcher, I can say, now, as a researcher, if I'm just looking at a bunch of Reddit comments, I might eventually say, oh, well, sometimes when I'm looking at a comment, I don't know if it's toxic or not. Maybe it's slang, maybe there's some kind of cultural thing, or I'm deep in a subreddit like r non-credible defense, and who the fuck knows what's going on there. And so I realized I need a third category, maybe ambiguous or unknown. This dynamic is epistemologically different than when you outsource annotation work to crowd workers. So like if you're going to send the work to Amazon Turk, if you give this toxic slash non-toxic task to a rater and you don't give them any kind of ambiguous option or some kind of comment field or a way to say like, hey, I need to flag this example to a researcher, then you're just going to get back a bunch of data that's labeled toxic or non-toxic. There's a loss to you, the researcher. You just are never exposed to enough data to realize that there's this exception. This need for a third category exists. And there's no way for you to realize you've made a mistake. You haven't looked at the data, you've just outsourced everything. These two different ways of going about making data sets produce different outcomes, even if you're labeling literally the same data, the same set of Reddit comments. If you think of medical research, you might think of varying what medicine you give to patients to see how it impacts some disease. In this case, I can show that varying the methodology that you use to produce a human annotated data set produces different results. And that's interesting. Now, if we go and look at the methodological literature on human annotation, we'll see there's a bunch of practices to try and mitigate this. There's a lot of people who've done a lot of really good work to figure out, hey, it turns out that it's really useful to have humans go and annotate things. How do we do this well? And if you go and look at it, you'll see there's actually a bunch of best practices to try and mitigate this kind of effect that I'm talking about. You can add a comment field for annotators. You can have discussions with annotators and go through multiple rounds of producing ratings. You can give them an ambiguity score that they can set when they're labeling something. Or as a researcher, you can use your human eyeballs and look at some of the data. But, and this is also interesting, a lot of the research either doesn't do this or they fail to document this, what I'd argue is really an important part of their methodology. And just a brief aside, if you're researching something, if you're producing a labeled data set and you're not willing to look at 100, or really 1,000 of what you're labeling, you just aren't interested enough in the problem to research it. I'm sorry. Good research happens when someone truly cares about the thing they're studying and they're willing to get their hands dirty with real data. Go find something that you can look at 1,000 of and study that. Given all this, apparently there's just no place in academia for that kind of work. And that's fine. I'm disappointed that the people you'd think would be most interested in doing a thing right, the people devoting their careers to a particular kind of academic work, just aren't interested in that. If being right doesn't matter to the people studying this, then there's not anything I can really do to make them care. I do realize I'm being a bit unfair to a lot of academics here. They need to have a little just hashtag, not all academics. It's a big enough problem, and I want to solve other problems. So I'm headed back to work for Google, and I'm going to build good, reliable AI systems. Not that the corporate world is the bastion of trying to make things work and work well, but I do think, right now and in general, that the software industry is doing a better job of advancing knowledge in AI than in academia. But that's an argument for a different time. I hope you enjoyed this rant, and maybe I'll do this again.